Concerns about the independence of the judiciary in Nigeria have intensified as Nigerians are the mingling with the executive and members of the public has become increasingly common among some judges who now attend dinners, book launches, groundbreaking ceremonies, and other events that have been hosted by potential litigants. Critics argue that these actions breach the judiciary's code of conduct, which prohibits judges from forming special relationships with potential litigants.
Others have also highlighted systemic concerns such as the executive arm funding judicial projects like housing and vehicles for judges, which they say contravenes constitutional guarantees of financial autonomy for the judiciary. Now, this reliance, they argue, risks judicial impartiality and undermines the separation of powers. Joining us to discuss this is a human rights lawyer and managing partner of Liberty Semper Fidelis, Dr. Abdul Mahmud, who joins us this morning. Good morning, Dr. Mahmud.
Hello, sir.
Right?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Good morning, Dr. Mahmud, if you can hear us.
Thank you.
Okay, while we try to fix the connection with Dr. Mahmud this morning, the conversation is mostly centered around fixing the obvious flaws that we can see in the integrity of Nigeria's judicial system, and of course the independence that it should have, the issues that have been pointed out, with the frolicking of judges and the likes with the executive, every now and then where we hear about cars and SUVs being bought by governors and handed to judges, this basic relationship really that should not exist because of how it it affects or could affect the impartiality of the justice system.
The funny thing is that the conversation about independence of the judiciary is not a new conversation. We are discussing independence of judiciary as far back as when I was in law school over a decade ago, right? And it's wild or very interesting to see that many years later we're still having these conversations. However, at the time, the conversation was more from the perspective of how, yes, separation of powers is important to checkmates, for checks and balances, but they hammered particularly on, yes, there is separation of powers, but the judiciary on its own has to be a standalone, has to be totally independent of the other two arms of government, because it is the judiciary that is the overseer of these two arms of government to ensure that, when there's anyone that's overstepping their boundaries, they will come to the judiciary as the last resort to sort this out. So it's really been an ongoing conversation. Of recent times, majority of the scenarios that have elicited this conversation would be the Chief Justice of the Federation attending the groundbreaking ceremony by the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, and then seeing a number of, we talked about it when we were doing Which Way Nigeria some days ago, when we had the Lagos State Governor host a special celebration dinner for the CGN. A number of these have made people raise eyebrows and want to look at what exactly that might mean for the independence of the judiciary. We have lawyer and managing partner at Liberty Semper Fidelis, LP, Dr. Abdul Mahmud. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. I apologize for the technical challenges I've been having from my end. One of those challenges we face in this part of the world, particularly Nigeria.
Okay, we hope that, that we can be able to get through the conversation with it. But let's dive right into it. A number of the scenarios that have popped up in the past few weeks or months have made Nigerians raise eyebrows. For example, would be Justice Kekereekun attending a Lagos State dinner hosted by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, as well as the groundbreaking ceremony for, that was hosted by the Minister of the FCT. Now, are these just mere eyebrows that people are raising, or is there really a cause for concern in these scenarios?
For me, this is my personal view, and also take into account some aspect of my professional life as a practicing lawyer, and I need to say it straight out. The attendance of the Chief Justice of Nigeria at a party organized by the Governor of Lagos State was ill-advised. That's one. Two, the groundbreaking event in Abuja, which involved again, the CGN, and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory ought not to have happened in the way that it was organized. We are talking about the judicial arm of government. Let's get it straight. There are three arms of government: legislative, executive, and the judicial arm. The judicial arm is the unelected arm of the government, but it represents that arm that interprets national laws, rules in our statute books. When judicial officers are seen to be romancing with members of the executive branch in public, it raises fundamental questions about perception of bias, perception of romance, perception of the inadequacy of the judicial branch. And I thought that for occupants of judicial offices or judicial officials, they should have been circumspect in accepting to attend programs of the executive branch. I think we have in aid judicial history here. When in 1976 or thereabout, the former governor of Lagos State tried to organize a state banquet, and he invited the Chief Judge of Lagos State at the time, J.I.C. Taylor. J.I.C. Taylor just fired a letter to the military administrator and told him, "Look, I'm busy with my judicial duties. I don't have time to attend programs put together by the executive branch." What our current crop of judicial officers are doing does not speak well of their exalted positions, does not speak to what is expected of them vis-a-vis, ethical responsibilities that they owe to the profession. But you see, every bad thing has a source. Like I told a group of journalists last week, we have become a society of one bear. We've become a society of let's celebrate, waiting we will chop, how we will chop. You admit a lawyer to the Nigerian bar, they shut down at Abuja. Every point, every bar you find in Nigeria, people are celebrating. New entrants to the profession. New entrants to the profession are celebrating. When you admit lawyers to the inner bar and become senior advocate of Nigeria, they shut down Abuja. When you pass JAMB and you are given admission, that culture of celebration is what has eaten deep into all facets of our national life, including the judiciary. You appoint a lawyer, a judge, you invite his entire community, and they throw parties, shut down streets of our country and all that. The appointment, is an invitation to exalted, ethical, more opportune in respect of duties. And I do not think as Nigerians we recognize the importance of all of these. And this is what you find happening today in the judicial branch. When we were growing up, before I became a lawyer, even when I became a lawyer, hardly would you see a judge in the public space. Judges were seen, they were heard, but not seen. Today, unfortunately, you find judicial officers everywhere. Some of them even boast in a public place, like the legislator who was caught on camera a few years ago, telling the Nigerian public, "You know who I am. I'm judge of the Federal Republic of Nigeria," and all that. It's unfortunate.
You've really touched on some key points, and I'd like to, follow up with something that you've said, and making reference to how far, and truly, the legal profession has oftentimes been referred to as not just a noble profession, but one that isn't really a loud profession. It's why the code of conduct would not allow certain things like advertising and the likes. But you talked about the SAN, the SANs who, when they get appointed, or the judges, they throw a party and they shut down Abuja. The procedure the process for appointing SAN has also been another conversation that has come up. If we're looking at the independence of the judiciary, I think there might need to be a cleanup that starts from the inside. And one of the areas that have been highly criticized is the mode by which these people are appointed and how there's, sometimes in some cases there has to be some sort of lobbying. And there have been lawyers who have called for the cancellation of the process for, attaining an SAN or sanship because they feel that it's fraught with so many irregularities. I'd like to find out your thoughts on that.
Well, unfortunately, I think I'm conflicted here. I'm one of the many Nigerian lawyers, senior lawyers who are applying for the executive position senior advocate of Nigeria. But I also have to be honest with ourselves. Everything that every good that Nigerian touches, turn into rot. And the process for appointment, though glamorized in the public space, does not meet the expectations of many lawyers. It's true. The culture of lobbying has eaten deep into the process of appointment, but largely it is still based on merit. You, as a litigious lawyer, you still have to present. You still have to meet the condition of having appeared before judges in the High Court, won cases or lost cases, as the case may be, in the Court of Appeal, and must have had a case in the Supreme Court with root in the trial court, which invariably means that one of the cases you are presenting as evidence of your meritorious litigious advocacy, in the profession should have begun from the High Court, gone through the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. Every year, the Privileges Committee comes out with conditions for appointment. But like I said, we are Nigerians, and the appointment is a Nigerian appointment. Some of the melees that afflicts our society also afflicts the appointment process. But that does not mean that many lawyers you find who are senior advocates of Nigeria today did not earn it meritoriously. They did. But I have some criticism of the appointment itself. If you look at elsewhere, particularly United Kingdom, where we borrow this culture from, the appointment is largely driven by excellence. So what have you done to shape, to change the course of, jurisprudence, of your country? I'm critical of our practice, and I'm also critical of myself because I'm a trial lawyer. Some of the cases we present as evidence, to become senior advocate of Nigeria, are a rehash of principles, of ratios, of decisions, of the Supreme Courts, of courts of our country. No new principles, no new ratios are being set. And you just ask yourself, what is the basis of this excellence? How does the Privileges Committee define excellence? There's a case about Marukolu and Ikedili, which touches on, every lawyer knows it, on jurisdiction. In 1961, 1962, Federal Supreme Court decision. As brilliant as that decision is, no principle, no new ratio has been able to set the boundaries or even expand the boundaries of the decision. So for me, excellence is not driven by the number of cases you attend to at the apex court of our country. Excellence will be driven by how you shape jurisprudence.
All right. Dr. Mahmud, in the interest of time, let's move on to other, major conversations. I want your thoughts on the, I've heard people react, even other lawyers react to the case against former CJN Walter Onnoghen, it has been dropped, but, for me, the key aspect of it was the damage that was done to the judiciary when that action was taken against him, of course, born from the CCT. So I want your thoughts on what significance it has or it has had on Nigeria's judiciary, and what your general thoughts are on that case being dropped.
Well, I welcome the decision of the Court of Appeal, and I salute the former CJN Onogen for his tenacity of purpose, his courage of conviction. For lesser men who were shoved out of judicial position, they would have just gone into oblivion and sulk till the day of their deaths. But he didn't do that. He picked up the mantle, the gauntlet, as the case was, and fought back the Nigerian state that was intent, in disgracing him, and it did disgrace him out of office. For me, two things combined, in the destruction of the Nigerian judiciary. I'm sure you both remember a few years ago, in the middle of the night, dark men from the state security service stormed the homes of judges in Abuja, break through their doors, all in search of dollars and foreign currencies, without respect for the exalted positions that these men and women held. Not long after, we saw the shenanigans that happened with Deland the Umar, who sat over the CJN, or Chief Justice of Nigeria, in what was a trumped-up charge against the judicial officer. I'm glad that we've come to the truth. I'm glad that there is an erasure of the stain that was planted on the white banner of the CGN, of the former CGN. But how do we recover from it is a question that we must have to answer. In an attempt to answer it, we must pose the fact that two things are fundamental to the existence of the judicial arm in any constitutional democracy: respect for the Constitution and the protection of independence of the judicial arm. Both will have to happen within the judiciary and outside the judiciary. Some of us that are outside the judiciary, who are practicing lawyers, must continue to promote and defend the Constitution, promote and defend the Nigerian courts and judges, and judges themselves from within. We must begin to assert their independence, must begin to show some sense of respectability. It is when you respect yourself that the world will respect you.
Yeah, but quickly, before we move on to other things, quickly, how much culpability would you give to judges for the damage that has been done so far to the judiciary, and of course, the Buhari administration as well? Is that a thing that the Nigerian judiciary would ever be able to recover from with the current crop of judges?
Well, judges are not plucked from planet Mars. They are also Nigerians. They have the Nigerian blood in them. They have relatives, relations, friends, associates, old boys networks that they operate within. Like I said earlier, some of the malice afflicting Nigeria also afflict the judicial branch, and judges are not insulated. But look. The corruption index, which I read, I think was issued last week, pointed to the judicial arm as one of the most corrupt institutions in our country. It is not monkeys that people in the judicial branch. It is humans like us, it's judges, which invariably point to the fact that when you have judicial officials, you have judges who are collecting and demanding, bribes. Where they are found, they should be punished. They should be sent out of set out the judicial branch, like the National Judicial Council did a few days ago. But my problem with the outcome of the council's meeting is that it made no pronouncement on the prosecution of judges who altered their ages. Alteration is forgery, and it is punishable by the statute books of our country. When we begin to fish out the bad eggs within the judicial branch, we'll now begin the onerous task of cleansing the branch from cleansing the branch from within. But we have a fundamental problem in our country. The way we constitute power, the way we deploy power, the way we refuse to make power, consequential, even in the affairs of men and of citizens, is at the heart of some of this crisis that we are facing in our country.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, we're really trying to work with the time that we have. Quickly, also, I mean, the judicial conversation can go on forever.
Absolutely.
But I think we still want to move the conversation somewhere else, Olive.
Yeah, let's bring in the conversation about the pro-Biafra agitator, Simon Ekpa, who's been arrested by the Finnish Central Criminal Police. He's the leader of a faction of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. So I want to get your thoughts exactly, knowing that he was arrested alongside 4 others on suspicion of terrorist activities, as reported by Finnish newsmen. Finnish police say they suspect that Ekpa has contributed to violence and crimes against civilians in southeastern Nigeria. And the police also suspect that the Biafra agitator committed the crime of collecting money in violation of the Finnish Money Collection Act. So let's find out your thoughts regarding, this situation. There are those who are calling for his extradition to Nigeria, that, he be tried here in Nigeria. Let's first of all get your general thoughts on, if you see that happening.
I welcome the action of the Finnish government, particularly the Finnish police in Helsinki. No citizen is expected to sit in a foreign land, promote violence, promote conflict in his own land. I think what the government in Helsinki or the police in Helsinki has done is what's expected under international law and under the municipal and national laws of Finland. So I welcome what they have done. But I need to say this, I need to caution. I read a statement by the Defense Ministry yesterday where it stated, among others, that it is expecting the removal of Simon Ekpa from Finland, and in a few days he will arrive in Nigeria for trial. It is not Uhuru. Nigeria does not have an extradition treaty with Finland, and two, this is fundamental. As far as I'm aware, there's no crime established against Simon Ekpa in Nigeria, except I have amnesia. I'm not sure charges have been filed against him by law enforcement agencies in Nigeria for acts, criminal acts that he triggered, he instigated, he continues to promote in Nigeria. And two, the question of extradition in international law is a tough call. It's a tough call. And don't forget that Simon Ekpa is a Finnish, and it's expected that he will have to go through the entire gamut of the court, in Finland. We'll also have the European Convention on Extradition that the Finnish government has to deal with, and the European Human Rights Act. So I'm not a seer or a prophet, and I see the battle for his extradition getting as far as the European Court on Human Rights in Strasbourg. It's not going to be an easy call. It's not going to be an easy call for Nigeria. But we must do the proper thing. If Simon Ekpa has committed any crime, I think criminal charges should be brought against him, in our courts, and I do not think that has been done.
How do you see that? I mean, what are your expectations? Because, I mean, first of all, he has, like you said, he has to go through the process in Finland. What are your expectations, and also, how does that also affect the Nnamdi Kanu conversation here in Nigeria, and the ability of the current administration to also manage the violence, that is being caused by these elements in the southeast? There's possibilities that, since Simon Ekpa has been arrested, there might be more violence. A couple of days ago, we heard about what happened in Anambra State on Monday.
You touched an important point there. That the fact that Nigeria doesn't have a extradition treaty with Finland does not extinguish our right to apply that he be extradited to Nigeria. But the Finnish government will only entertain the application on the basis of discretion, and other factors will have to come into play. If is repatriated or extradited to Nigeria or removed to Nigeria, will his fundamental rights be abrogated by the trial? Would the trial be fair? Would the trial not turn into a political trial? These are factors that the Finnish government has to look at. But if you look at what is at play, and you use Nnamdi Kanu's case as an example, you ask yourself, has this trial be fair? Has the trial not turned into a political football or a hot political potato? You ask yourself, how has the trial, increased, people's perception of the politics around combating terrorism in our country? If you look at case laws that have come out of Finland, particularly in the European Court on Human Rights, Section 2 of the Extradition Act, in Finland, the European Court had consistently respected it. Here, the Section 2 says that the Finnish government cannot extradite a Finnish citizen to a high contracting state. Unfortunately, that is the law. Cases as Koslov, Lazarov Fesso against Finland, a long list of cases. The European courts, court had consistently held and protected the fundamental right of Finnish citizens. That is the challenge that we have to face. But at the diplomatic level, I do not think that we have that. Let me put it lightly, by not insulting my country. I do not think we have that influence, that prestige in the Committee of Nations for us to move the needle in the haystack. Unfortunately, again, too, how we address the fallout, of the arrest, of the prosecution, of the attempt to extradite him to Nigeria, will also tell on our ability to address the fundamental issue of terrorism that afflicts us. You pointed out an example of what happened in Nnewi. That ought not to happen. That ought not to have happened in any sane society. The policing around security in our country is still not up to scratch, and the Nigerian state has to fundamentally confront it, address it, get some of the bad eggs that are creating problems for our country out of society, and get them banged up.
All right.
We are not seeing that. We are living on the wing and on a prayer in our country. When you fly out like I did a few days ago, you are praying. When you are traveling out of jurisdiction to attend courts by road, you are praying against principalities, bad boys, so that they don't hurt you, they don't kidnap you, and demand outlandish, outrageous sum from your family as ransoms.
Yeah. All right.
That's the situation we face in our country.
Yeah, Dr. Mahmud. I mean, I'm certain in the next, couple of days or maybe weeks, we'll learn more, about his arrest, and maybe what even engineered it. If it's possible that the Nigerian government had a role to play, we would find out more in the next couple of weeks. But thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thanks for your time, and we wish you a very interesting weekend ahead. We'll speak with you again soon.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a long time. Welcome to Lagos from Enugu.
Thank you very much.